Major Reisman. You are ordered by Allied command to select 12 general prisoners, convicted by courts-martial and sentenced to be executed or serve lengthy prison terms for murder, rape, robbery, and other crimes of violence. And you will deliver them secretly behind enemy lines in France to undertake a mission of sabotage that could change the course of the war. The 12 men will be known as the Dirty Dozen.
Lee Marvin as Major John Reisman.
There's a little of Major Reisman in every man, says Marvin. Tough and unyielding, yet compassionate. I think it's the best role I've ever been asked to play.
You've all volunteered for a mission which gives you just 3 ways to go. Either you can foul up in training and be shipped back here for immediate execution of sentence, or you can foul up in combat, in which case I will personally blow your brains out, or you can do as you're told, in which case you might just get by.
Now you hold it right there. This war was not started for your private gratification, and you can be damn sure that this army isn't being run for your personal convenience either.
Ernest Borgnine as General Warden.
I'm tired of seeing generals portrayed as desk-bound pen pushers, says Borgnine. So I've played Warden as a rough professional soldier.
Robert Ryan as Colonel Everett Dasher Breed.
There were officers like Breed, says Ryan, who could never suffer the rules broken or even bend a little.
Major Reisman's compliments, sir.
Tell him while it's strong.
You prefer to be captured or destroyed?
Jimmy Brown as Napoleon Jefferson.
Jefferson is any man fighting for recognition against the odds, says Brown. I think I understand him pretty well.
The hell is this?
John Cassavetes as Victor Franco.
Says Cassavetes. Franco is a petty hoodlum forced to heroism by circumstances beyond his control.
We go on that mission, we all get killed. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Trini Lopez as Jimenez.
He's crawling with hate.
Charles Bronson as Vladislaw.
The last guy in the world you'd expect to be a hero.
Telly Savalas as Archer Maggot.
Maggot is a maniac, says Savalas. His religious fanaticism can never be moderated or quelled. It is a constant danger.
Clint Walker as Samson Posey.
An Indian with war paint smeared on his soul. Train them. Excite them. Arm them.
And turn them loose on the Nazi High Command.
Hello and welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
I'm Angela.
And the sounds you hear may be dogs. Definitely are their dogs. Or us talking. There's also that sound. And I see our dog, he's getting ready to be loud. All month, this month, it's our most patriotic month, right, I guess? July 4th is this month. We did not have a drop on July 4th. It seems like we maybe should have. But there are no Revolutionary War era movies this month, I'll say that. But we are popping off World War II week here, which will run the gamut all week long. A more than 3 episode drop this. I don't know. I keep scheduling weeks where there's 5 movies a week. And I do it because I love to schedule the movies. I love to play with the themes and pick the movies. And I struggle to narrow them down. It's really hard. I just want to talk about more movies than are even in existence that we will... It upsets me to think that, like, there are movies we will never get to, ever. We will leave this realm not discussing certain movies.
I've never thought about that before, but truly, I just felt like a pit in my stomach when you said that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
There's just too many movies.
Well, maybe we need to do 7 a week.
Cool. You gonna edit them?
Just kidding.
Well, now, last week, when we were discussing Master and Commander... we brought up the concept of the dad boner movie, kind of the war movie, the Western movie. Classic war movies, classic Westerns, and then Master and Commander a superior dad boner movie. Only Dad saw that movie in the theater when it came out.
And you.
And I brought up The Dirty Dozen as perhaps an example of a dad boner movie from the 60s. But when I'm sitting and watching The Dirty Dozen, the thing that makes me disqualify something as being a dad boner movie specifically is if I think it's cool. And I kind of think The Dirty Dozen is pretty cool, but do I think it's cool because I'm a fucking dad boner?
I think it's cool. I really enjoyed this movie. I did not know anything about it, and as I've said before, I'm a little cautious with every movie this month. I really, really liked it so much.
If you think this movie's cool, and I think this movie's cool, that might be the evidence, regardless of whether we can face it or not, that this is a dad boner movie.
So I have a dad boner.
Yeah, your clitoris is puffed.
This is a mom.
This is a mom clit.
No!
A mom puffy clit.
No!
Movie.
No!
Get those clits puffy, ladies.
Stop it. I think it's a good movie no matter what. One of the things,
a dad boner can be a good movie. A dad boner movie can be a good movie.
One of the things that is most enjoyable about this one to me, and I know we'll get into the specifics, but we really get to know these characters. And while there is conflict, there isn't really any big war scene, like hand-to-hand combat long scene. And that is usually when things lose me.
Sure,
I can appreciate when they're done well, but I don't enjoy that kind of stuff. And there was not a moment in this where I thought, oh man, here we go.
We're talking about The Dirty Dozen from 1967, directed by Robert Aldrich. This is our second Robert Aldrich movie. And every time I ask can you guess, I know you don't, but
just try.
Kiss Me Deadly. The same guy that made Kiss Me Deadly made this.
Amazing.
And also Flight of the Phoenix, The Longest Yard, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Oh, wow.
Those are Robert Aldrich movies.
Nice.
So anyway, The Dirty Dozen is written by Nunnally Johnson, Lucas Heller, based on a book by E.M. Nathanson that came out like the year before. Starring a whole plethora of fellows: Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown. I think this is his feature film debut. He was the running back for the Cleveland Browns, a huge All-American star, like one of the big stars in this movie. The owner of the Browns was like, hey, you need to either pick football or you pick the movies. And Jim Brown dipped out at a younger age and became a movie star.
And good for him. And I'm glad it worked out.
Also starring John Cassavetes.
I do know this one. A Woman Under the Influence.
Yes, we saw a woman. He is a good director as well. We also have seen a movie by his son, directed by his son, John Q. Richard Jekyll is Sergeant Clyde Bowen. George Kennedy, who we've seen in the Naked Gun movies. Trini Lopez, who the only reason he died off screen was because, for whatever reason, he had to leave the production of the movie. Ralph Meeker, Robert Ryan, Telly Savalas, Donald Sutherland. I think it's been a couple weeks since we're recording this that Donald Sutherland passed away. A great actor. We love his 70s stuff, especially.
I love him.
And
I have a dad boner for Donald Sutherland in the 70s.
You have a puffy clit for Donald Sutherland.
Stop it.
And he was a big activist. We will be seeing another more Donald Sutherland before the end of the month.
Yay.
Can you guess which wartime film he stars in? There's just a mess of folk in this movie. That's kind of what I like about war movies. It's just a big cast and a lot of people coming up. Telly Savalas, who plays Maggot, like his name is Maggot, would be like a bigger television guy throughout the 80s. But The Dirty Dozen, we get Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin is cool, right? Because I do think he's cool. I mean, ultimately, being cool does not matter, right? If you're concentrating too much on what is cool, truly, then that's not cool. But Lee Marvin, his superior officers don't like him. He gets begrudging respect from certain aspects of the Army, like Ernest Borgnine, who plays a general.
And Naked Gun guy is like his best friend.
Yeah, he kind of seems a little chill with him, too. But there's other dudes that are ranked, just think he's hotshot piece of shit.
He even has an arch nemesis in this movie, and we never know why they don't like each other, but they really don't like each other.
It's because he backtalks. He goes against the grain. He bends orders. They mentioned that.
For sure, but it seemed like there was something more personal going on.
Well, when we meet Major John Reisman, the cool Lee Marvin, he's witnessing a hanging and of a fellow officer for whatever reason. I think he's crying like he didn't mean to shoot that guy, so he's being hung. So when they approach Reisman,
Project Amnesty. You will select 12 general prisoners convicted and sentenced to death or to long terms of imprisonment for murder, rape, robbery, and or other crimes of violence and so forth. Train and qualify these prisoners in as much of the business of behind-the-lines operations as they can absorb in a brief but unspecified time. You will then deliver them secretly into the European mainland and just prior to the invasion, attack and destroy the target specified overleaf.
That's all?
and it's going to be up to you to make them work together, and you figure out how they're going to work together and get this. They literally are going to go. They've got intel that there's some big officers gala at this big mansion, like the night before D-Day, and the goal is to go there and kill as many Nazi officers as possible. It's a suicide mission. It doesn't even. They don't care whether Reisman comes back alive. They don't care if any of these men. But if they happen to have good marks on their service,
maybe,
yeah,
because he actually fights for that. Seems like they would almost prefer it if none of these men come back, because then there's no trace of how this went down. Lee Marvin even says at one point, Reisman says, there must be somebody crazy at the top. He fights for them because he says, what is the point of this? Why would they work together? Why would they listen to me? If it's a suicide mission and you're saying, oh, they survived, they can just go back to jail. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So they said, we'll give them something maybe.
These men are thieves, murderers, rapists. Like, these are bad men who did bad things.
Maggot is really, really, really bad.
He's a psychopathic rapist.
He thinks that God has sent him to clean up women.
And you got Cassavetes plays Victor Franco.
You were a big man with a syndicate back in Chicago? You've seen my record. Yeah, I've seen your record, so let's knock it off, huh? So what's the first thing that happens when you hit London? You get yourself involved in a penny ante stick-up. You start blasting, you kill some old guy, huh? And come away with what? What did you have in your pockets when they picked you up?
He's kind of clowning him for his lack of imagination more than his criminality.
He's like a dangerous class clown.
Then you got Jim Brown, who killed a man.
Don't sweet talk nobody. You know why I'm here. Or maybe you think I should have let those cracker bastards go right ahead and castrate me.
Well, seeing what those guys were trying to do to you, I'd say that you had considerable justification.
There are a few interviews that Reisman does with them in their rooms, and Reisman says to him, obviously you didn't do it on purpose, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it seems like it's wrong place, wrong time, accidental deaths when defending yourselves. A fellow by the name of Posey, this big-ass dude played by Clint Walker.
He's like a good old boy.
Yeah, but he punched a guy, accidentally killed him. And Reisman recognizes that he doesn't have that instinct about him, really pushes him into a corner to figure out how to get this guy to calm his emotions, because that's why he's in jail, because he's not a bad person, but he couldn't control his emotions. Therefore, this big-ass man punched the guy, killed him. Yeah, you're locked up. Donald Sutherland plays Pinkley. I'm not sure what Pinkley did. And then, of course, the worst person is the Telly Savalas character, Archer Maggot. They literally gave this character the name of Maggot. He raped a woman. He absolutely despises women, and he thinks he's the righteous hand of God, no matter what he does. They bring a doctor in at one point, Reisman does, and he talks to all the soldiers. And the doctor says to Reisman, I think given the chance, any of these men will kill you. And Maggot is the most dangerous and needs to be taken off this fucking mission. Yeah. He is unhinged, and we find out he is unhinged, and he fucks it all up. Yeah, sort of. But he fucks up. So they have to tell them, any one of you fucks it up for everyone else, you're essentially getting hung. And there's a point where Franco gets hold of some clips, and he's trying to cut through the fence and escape, and Jim Brown and some other guys come and stop him and take him out and beat him up just to keep him from sabotaging it for everyone else.
We're all dead anyway. Don't tell me you believe that creep Reisman.
Let that slick bum make suckers out of you? Whose side are you on?
Because they want a chance. And they have been doing all these bonding things. Like, they have to build their own quarters and set up their room. They have to do everything together. But yeah, this is kind of a very important moment where it's like, nah, you're not fucking this up for us. We're going to make sure we stay in line. But they're still not a team.
As you can imagine, he does successfully get this team to kind of be cohesive. But he doesn't do it in this way that where they become these hill-clicking saluter guys. He figures out how to do it on their own time. And there's a point where a guy's getting punished and they can't all work together. They got conflicts with each other. Maggot's like racist to the Jim Brown character and shit. And it's rough. There's one point where they don't have access to like hot water, right? And they want hot water to be able to shave and clean up. And they all unify in this protest, and they're all together, and they all stand together in protest. They want access to hot water like everyone else on the base is getting. Now, Reisman sees this like, finally, this is the first time that they've all been together on this.
Because they said we. They can join together in disliking him and not liking his rules. As long as they are a unit protecting and standing with each other, that's what he needs. Now, eventually, he does need them to trust him. And they get there, too. The thing in the bathroom is so fucked up because his nemesis guy, Breeden, they go to Breeden's base to learn how to jump out of airplanes. They got a parachute because they need it for their mission. But they don't tell Breeden anything about what's going on. And there's this great part where Breeden doesn't want to let them in. So Reisman tells the guy, tell him whatever. He's got like this second in command officer. Kennedy. He's like, I don't care. Tell him there's a general with us. I don't care. And so they get there and there is like a band playing and they're like they're like in their
general's about to
like,
pop out of
nice
this truck.
Suits. And he goes in the back and he's like,
Which one of you guys wants to be a general?
A general?
Do you want? Pinkley?
What kind of a general, sir?
Just a plain, ordinary, everyday, home-loving American general.
I'd rather be a civilian, sir.
that is one of the funniest parts of this movie to me because he hams it up and his guys are just over there giggling.
Reisman's like,
just walk slow, look dumb, and act stupid. Up one rank and down the other and straight back to the truck.
Pinkley's coming up after they're doing their display and he's like,
They're very pretty, Colonel. Very pretty. But can they fight?
Yes, sir.
I hope you're right.
He's overdoing it, of course, because these men cannot be told exactly. They're going to be clowns at the very least.
They learn how to jump, and then Breeden actually tells two of his top guys to find out what the fuck these fuck-ups are doing.
And they go after the Charles Bronson character, Vladislav.
And beat him up in the bathroom, and two of his other guys come in and save him, beat those guys up, get him out of there. But you're right, they're still at this point where they don't trust Reisman so much that they think that he did it to see if he was loyal.
His character was an officer who got locked up. But
he hates officers.
But he hates officers. But Reisman recognizes that there's probably a reason that they made him an officer.
And his father speaks German.
Yes.
And so he's fluent in German.
Because
close.
Where he lived, there was a very German immigrant place, so he had to speak German to get jobs and
when
stuff.
he says, I know you don't like officers, but you were one. And he says, yeah, for 3 days.
Got himself put in the pokey during hard time for whatever reason. The reason why the opposing commander that's rivaling Reisman, he doesn't know all these answers because this is a top secret group. Other soldiers in the barracks who are doing their typical rounds, they see these guys just like fucking around and
they're dirty. They're not shaven.
Yeah, they're not shaven because they're still protesting. They fucking smell. And it's like, who are these guys? And that commanding officer who's rivaling Reisman, he can't stand not knowing anything. So he has to make a big stink about it. Reisman got in trouble since they were doing so well, he let them have women. So
alcohol.
Yeah, and they're like training in like England or something. So he brings in these women.
And because Maggot is such a terrible
sexual assaulter,
sexual predator,
they keep him in the bird's nest.
He's in the lookout and he's not allowed to leave. And of course he starts yelling about how these men are going to go to hell because of Reisman, and Reisman's like,
to be judged.
You just shut up and do your job.
Well, they find out that they had the girls, and that almost breaks up the whole program.
At this point, they know that it wasn't Reisman because Breeden brought his men to their camp one day to try to figure out what was going on and was going to beat them all up, and Reisman wasn't there, and then they overtook, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, they knew, oh, Reisman really is with us. Yeah. And against all these other people. And he brought them those girls. He truly appreciated them, gave them the officer's bunk. And so at that point, they will do anything for him.
Yeah. Or they're in it together, and they know he's on their side. So they have to do this war exercise where...
War games
where they have to take the enemy color. The war game scene is pretty long and drawn. It's very entertaining.
It's so good. You should watch it.
But they essentially win because they just switch the colors. And then they do...
So they're going in enemy lines.
And they're faking, like, real injuries and stuff. It's all sabotage, subterfuge, and just as simple as changing your armband. And as they're starting to infiltrate by faking injuries and shit like that, Ernest Borgnine, as the general, is sitting in the bunker
with Breeden,
with the pissy-ass commanding officer who's challenging them. And he sees what they're doing. And he's not giving it away, but it's like he sees that they're about to take this. And he doesn't rat. He's just, like, completely amused by
He decides to leave before they get held up. But he knows what's happening, and you can tell he is delighted. One thing I would like to mention, they even go so far as to, each group has a spectator, or like a watcher, and our Naked Gun guy is theirs.
George Kennedy.
And he is also delighted by this whole thing. And at one point, they start to change their bands, and he's like, you can't do that. And they're like, watch us.
Yeah.
Who says? But right before they go, they realize they can't take him because they'll know if he's with them. So they fucking kick him off. They, like, kick him out of a moving car. But when he stands up, he's, like, smiling. Because he knows.
Yeah, this idea of having rules in a war game is like, what's the point of that? Are there going to be rules when they're parachuting in front of a Nazi mansion?
By the time he catches up to them, they have all of Breeden's officers at gunpoint.
Major Reisman's compliments of it.
And I just love how they just weren't like everyone else. It didn't become like any other hill-clicking movie. It just was a kind of more of a matter-of-fact thing. More about the camaraderie of them, even these men who really you shouldn't trust at all.
You shouldn't trust them. I don't know. Some of them were put in bad situations, made a decision, and got in trouble. The only one that I feel like is completely not redeemable is Maggot. And he is the rapist. He is separate.
Yeah.
He never fully... I mean, he does stuff with them. They're a big group ultimately, but there's always something about him where he's a little off to the side.
When they are going through the mission, they got this thing that they dictate out loud that goes through the plan in which each men are supposed to be doing.
1.
Down to the robots we've just begun.
2.
The guards are through.
3.
The Major's men are on a spree.
4.
Major Waterslot go through the door.
5.
Think we stay in the dry.
6.
The Major gives the rope a fix.
7.
Waterslot goes the hook to heaven.
8.
Mayonnaise has got a date.
Ultimately, I think the Army would call this mission a success.
They do it
based on what they want out of it, because they don't care if these men come home. But there are things that go wrong within the mission, at least go wrong in terms of them being able to accomplish this mission while preserving themselves at the same time. And Maggot, he sees a woman who's with a Nazi officer, and he goes to assault her. He loses his shit. And he determines that in that moment, as the other men are getting into the building, that this is the time in which they need to be punished for sleeping with those prostitutes on the base that one night.
And Jefferson kills him.
And yeah,
he did shoot that woman.
And he also alerts,
or he stabbed her.
He also alerts the whole house. So all these officers,
he starts shooting first.
All these officers start escaping to this area that looks a lot like that. I don't think they filmed this in Germany, but it looks a lot like that place in Fritz Lang's M where they're doing the trial against Peter Lorre.
The catacombs under the city.
It looks just fucking like it. All these Nazi officers are
their bomb shelter,
and their wives and mistresses are herded here, and they get locked in. And there's vents, of course. They figure that out. So they dump tons of gas, throw grenades in there, and then they have no way to go out. But and they do successfully pull off the mission, but every member of the Dirty Dozen dies except for Major Reisman, Lee Marvin, and Charles Bronson.
And his first in command guy.
The MP dude?
Yeah.
Robert Jackal.
He ends up really liking these guys too and respecting them. He's kind of in charge when Reisman is not there. There is this moment at the very end where you think a group of them is going to get out. And you think Franco's going to get out with them.
Yeah, but he gets
shot at like the last second.
Jim Brown, who actually passed away only a couple of years ago. I'm remembering to say that now. One of Jim Brown's biggest roles was Mars Attacks. He was the guy that was beating up the aliens. But yeah, as Jim Brown gets the job done, he's getting shot down. Posey's getting shot down. Sutherland, he manages to... They all do accomplish enough of their job, except Maggot, that it does end up working out, but it is a suicide mission, and we end on Reisman and Vladislav. But all these men become commended. They get their record expunged, even though they're dead, but they are listed, even Maggot, as heroes who accomplished this mission.
Died in the line of duty.
Died honorably in the line of duty. And that is the Dirty Dozen. I thought I heard they're actually, I think they might be remaking this. Might be coming around the corner. Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I wouldn't recommend the remake, even not knowing who's doing it.
No.
I would definitely recommend watching the 67 version. The Dirty Dozen. I thought it was cool. We're going to give it 1 through 5 each, combined for best out of 10. I'm going to give it a 4.25.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Cool. So that brings it to an 8.75. Check it out. Barely missing S tier. I mean, if you were like, I think it's an S tier movie, I wouldn't argue with you. But The Dirty Dozen.
I kind of think it is.
The Dirty Dozen sits between the highest ranked Star Wars movie, Empire Strikes Back. It doesn't get any higher than that for Star Wars. And The Boy and the Heron, the Miyazaki film from last year, Dirty Dozen, is in between those two movies. Dirty Dozen is better than Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Like, I do like Empire Strikes Back. I prefer Dirty Dozen. I'm just going to bump it up to a 9. It's not much difference. It's still an A, but the Dirty Dozen is now between Tar and the Sword of Doom. And there you go. More war movie. Strap in this week. A lot of bullets, blood, and tears for World War II week. Check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate it when you do things like that. Do you like The Dirty Dozen? Did you like it as much as we did? I think it's kind of a pretty badass movie. One of those good two-fisted American movies, right? Right? All right. You know what we're hearing it for.
Let's hear it for the boys.
9. Get the guys go up the line.
10.
Sawyer and Gilpin are in the band.
11.
Posey guards points 5 and 7.
12.
Wladislaw and the Major go down to Dell.
And where is Donald Duck?
Donald Duck's down at the crossroads with a machine gun.
He'd better not be asleep or we'll all be in trouble, huh?